Hello my dear subscribers. I'm pleased to welcome you to my YouTube channel dedicated to author stories. Enjoy listening.
Ninel walked into the boss's office and sat down in the chair. The tall, slightly chubby man smiled at her and almost purred. "Well, Mrs. Ninel, you hit the jackpot. It's almost envy-inducing how many people were asking for you. The governor's son, the factory owner's daughter. And who should I recommend to them? You're the best, so you'll go work for them. The salary is so huge, I might as well become a nanny." Of course, the boss was lying. He made much more money from his household staffing agency. "Anyway, you'll start on Monday. You know the rules: see nothing, hear nothing, tell nothing to anyone." "Yes, I know, Mr. Wilby." "And what about the baby?" "A boy, 6 months old. I was just hinted that he's not entirely ordinary." "Oh, this elite. They won't say much, but they have a lot of demands." "Well, you'll figure it out on your own. Go, the new girl will be here soon, and I'll have to teach her the ropes." Ninel obediently got up and closed the door behind her. It's so good that everything worked out. And it's not even about the money. What would she do with so much money on her own? The kids scattered. Her son Jackson was in Norway. Her daughter went to Spain to be with her husband. It's boring. Her previous ward, Roman, went to Italy with his parents, and she's been on vacation for the 2nd month now. What else is there to do? She went to the park, cleaned the apartment. On Monday, a car with a driver picked her up and took her to the outskirts of the city. A new cottage settlement, built specifically for the local elite, was located next to a pine forest. The mansion where they brought her was in the most favorable spot in the woods next to the sandy shore of the river. Ninel was greeted by the owner himself, a well-fed, well-dressed man who gave her a sharp look and, apparently, was satisfied. "Mrs. Ninel, let's go to the living room and I'll tell you everything. I know you're the best, and that's exactly what I need. But this is a special case. You must not tell anyone about what you'll see." Ninel was used to the fact that wealthy families didn't like publicity. They lived as a separate caste. They were friends with their own kind and loved only their own. A separate circle of people behind a money fence. "Oscar, he's not just a child. He's been with us for 6 months now. My wife was planning to take care of him herself, but it's hard for her alone. Here, read this." He handed her a couple of sheets. "Emma put this together. It's the schedule, the rules, and what he can eat." He waited for Ninel to read it, then led her to the nursery. A tall, well-groomed blonde in an elegant dress was rocking the cradle. Seeing Ninel, she smiled and said, "Oscar is waking up. Let me introduce you." Ninel approached the cradle with the swaddled baby. Only one tuft of dark hair, like his father's, was visible from under the silk blanket. The baby stirred, ready to cry. The baby's mother looked questioningly at her husband, who nodded and let Ninel approach the crib. "What a miracle we have here," she said fondly and lifted the edge of the blanket. And she was stunned. Instead of a baby in the crib, there was a doll, dressed luxuriously with a pacifier in its mouth. "This is our Oscar," Emma explained, but seeing the nanny's wary look, she became sad. "You don't like our baby? Why are you looking at him like that?" Ninel stood there, not knowing what to say. She had seen a lot in life, but she had never seen such eccentricity before. The owner, Mr. Charlie, approached his wife and gently stroked her shoulder. "Calm down, my dear. Mrs. Ninel is the best nanny in town. We'll talk to her again and come to a decision." He pulled Ninel by the sleeve and pointed at the door, leading her to the greenhouse and telling her to sit down. "Mr. Charlie, I don't understand. Do I need to babysit a doll? Well, we don't call Oscar that, but essentially, you're right. You'll be his nanny. He's not a doll, but rather a robot, a complete imitation of a baby. And the needs are the same: feeding, bathing, entertaining. Mr. Charlie, but why? The man frowned and took a long pause. Mrs. Ninel, we didn't skimp on your salary for a kind, smart, and, most importantly, not curious assistant. Do you hear that? Oscar's crying. Maybe you should go to him? Ninel entered the nursery. The robot was crying discontentedly, and Emma was bustling around. You sing him a song, and I'll go get the formula, she said, and walked out the door. Ninel sat down by the crib and began to examine the doll. It looked almost like a real baby. Its body was covered in hedgehog rubber, with little fingers and transparent nails. Only the eyes were lifeless, giving away that it wasn't a real baby. Ninel touched it. It was warm. And the doll was whimpering. Understanding the absurdity of the situation, the nanny began to sing, and to her surprise, the doll stopped crying as if it heard the gentle voice singing a lullaby. Emma returned to the room, took Oscar out of the crib, and held him in her arms. Now let's eat, my little bunny. Come on, open your mouth. That's it, good job. Emma affectionately stroked the baby's cheek, and Ninel became uncomfortable. Did this woman really believe that this was a living baby? Was she insane? But Emma didn't look like it. She was beautiful, well-groomed, with a kind smile and slightly sad eyes. She resembled a lady from the past century, a high hairstyle, coral beads over a silk blouse. I'll be at home all day today, but I'm leaving after lunch tomorrow. So, Ninel, remember everything I'm saying. You'll be staying with Oscar tomorrow. Ninel was stunned, watching how gently she cared for the doll. This child, not even a doll, but rather a robot, did everything a real child would do. It cried when its diaper was wet, whimpered when it was hungry, listened to songs or stories being sung or read to it. Its arms and legs even moved. But when Ninel held it in her arms and it turned its head towards her, she wanted to scream and run away. But she knew if she did, she wouldn't have a job in their town anymore. Ninel was placed in a room opposite the nursery. They showed her where the staff dining room was and introduced her to the housekeeper. Mrs. Elena, a serious, reticent woman in her 50s, looked sternly at the newcomer and invited her to her room. By the way she confidently and almost on equal terms interacted with the owners, Ninel decided they trusted her. And the housekeeper, looking the nanny up and down, explained, "A limited circle of people have access to Oscar. That's me, you, and his parents. You won't show him to anyone else. Our staff is vetted, but curiosity can't be eradicated. And one more thing. You probably thought Mrs. Emma wasn't herself. But she's perfectly healthy, both mentally and physically." Ninel asked, "It's probably silly to ask you about Oscar?" The housekeeper smiled. "That's right. They'll tell you everything if you pass the trial period." Ninel got up in the morning and went to Oscar. She fed him formula, vegetable puree carefully prepared by the cook, and began to bathe him. By that time, Emma would come and hug the robot, playing with it. "Ninel, it's time for a massage. Just sing a song and don't put him on his back. He doesn't like it when you do that." Ninel sang and watched in horror as Emma kissed the robot's cheeks, hands, and feet. "My dear Oscar will stay with Aunt Nina, and Mom will go to work. Mom has a seat on the corporate board, so she'll scold the disobedient uncles who missed their contract. And then she'll come back to Oscar and read him a book. Isn't he lovely? Isn't he my little one?" For some reason, Ninel really liked Emma's calm, peaceful, kind. Unlike her gloomy, strict husband, she never scolded the servants. And if something didn't please her, she spoke calmly. Everyone loved and called her, behind her back of course, Miss Perfection, always beautiful, always kind. And she works not for anyone, but as the manager of a local bank. Ninel wondered how this gentle, lovely woman manages such a position. While staying with the robot, Ninel locked the room. She was strictly forbidden to take Oscar out of the nursery. And Ninel decided to find out how this little one works and found a small cover under his hair without visible fastenings and slots. It wasn't clear how to open it. But one day, when Emma wasn't home, the homeowner entered the nursery and took out a remote from his pocket. He picked up Oscar, pressed a button on the remote, and started changing Oscar's batteries. The maids, used to not meddling in the baby's affairs, paid no attention to Ninel, except for one. Her name was Olivia, a young, skinny girl, as if intentionally, kept running into Ninel. But she didn't apologize. On the contrary, she looked at her eyes so intently, pleadingly. "Olivia, what's wrong with you?" asked the nanny when the girl bumped into her again. And she slightly shook her head and showed her eyes to the greenhouse. Ninel read from her lips, "An hour." And the girl ran away immediately. Ninel put Oscar to bed, and as the clock hand stopped at 1, she left the nursery and went to the greenhouse. Olivia was standing at the door, holding a tea tray. She saw Ninel and whispered, "Please, save him. He's not well there, I know it." "Who?" Ninel was surprised. "The child. He cries at night, and I don't have a key." Ninel felt relieved and smiled at the scared girl. "Don't worry, Olivia. Oscar is crying because he's teething. All babies his age sleep restlessly. Both his mom and I take good care of him." Disappointment ran across Olivia's face as she shook her head and said, "You just don't know much. You think Oscar." Suddenly, footsteps approached. Someone was climbing up the stairs. Olivia, not finishing her sentence, rushed to the door and hurried to Mr. Charlie's office. He called out to her, "Finally! Did you fly to Africa for that tea?" The maid tried to explain, and Ninel hurried to Oscar. The probationary period ended in 2 weeks. Ninel was summoned to Mr. Charlie's office and told to wait. With nothing else to do, she examined the map on the wall made of colorful mosaic, which impressed her with its beauty and size. She approached it, reached out to touch it, and noticed a strange object in the corner, a small rag stuffed between the books, only visible from that part of the office. But it wasn't the maid's rag or clothing. It was something small and plush, not visible from afar. Ninel was already headed towards it, but then the door slammed shut. Mr. Charlie looked at the nanny frozen in front of the map. "Like it?" he asked, looking proud. Then he pressed a switch and the mosaic, illuminated from within, was bathed in soft light. Glowing with 100 shades, the stained glass threw colored lights all over the office. Ninel froze, unable to take her eyes off its beauty. "I ordered it in Venice," the owner said, smiling with satisfaction at the effect. "Miss Ninel, your probationary period is over and you have succeeded. Emma is happy, everything is fine. And now I can tell you about Oscar. The thing is, Emma was already pregnant 3 years ago, but the baby was stillborn. She suffered a lot, and so did I. And apparently, we don't have any more children due to nervousness. We've tried everything. She's healthy, and so am I, but we can't have children." Ninel saw how much pain he was in and understood that he really loves his wife. And the man continued, Oscar is a new method. It was invented by a genius, you could say. The essence is that the body that already has a child understands and calms down, stops fearing a new pregnancy, and it happens. There have already been cases of healing, and I hope it will help us too. Mr. Charlie, since it's already a day of revelations, may I ask you, why not IVF? Surrogacy, finally? No, it's impossible. I read about what happens to women after that. Hyperstimulation, oncology, as a result. I don't want my Emma to go through that. The secret was revealed. Ninel left the office with a light heart. She understood why Emma had become so attached to this robot. Poor woman. Ninel made her bed, turned on the night light, and checked on Oscar just in case. She came back to herself, almost fell asleep, but a sudden thought abruptly pulled her out of sleep. It was the hat, that pink thing from the office. Ninel had seen the ties, but didn't realize it right away. She sat up in bed, sleep vanished. Oscar definitely didn't have that hat. And why would he need it? He doesn't go outside. Maybe one of the maids forgot it. Ninel tossed and turned in bed, looking for a simple answer, but there wasn't one. She went to the kitchen for tea with honey and ran into the head of the household. What are you doing here? For some reason, the woman got angry and didn't move away from Ninel while she made tea. Ninel was surprised by such attention. And Mrs. Elena calmed down only when she escorted Ninel to her room. Ninel drank her tea, lay down, but in the silence of the night she heard a strange sound, barely audible. At first, she didn't understand what it was, but then she realized it was crying, but not Oscar's. And as soon as she remembered him, he started crying too. Ninel got up, went to him, and started singing a lullaby, and the robot calmed down. Ninel sang and listened. It wasn't her imagination, there was another child crying in the house. All morning, Elena scrutinized her with her gaze, but Ninel didn't show any sign that she heard the sound of a child crying. And at night, when everyone was asleep, she listened carefully. And after a week, she heard it again one night. She got up, put on a shawl, and went out into the hallway. Sneaking down the stairs, she saw Mrs. Elena hurrying somewhere, muttering to herself, "Where's that damn remote?" And Ninel, waiting for the right moment, followed her. The owner's office was lit up, and the elder nanny slipped inside and locked the door. Then something clicked, and the quiet crying became loud, as if the baby was right behind the door. "Yes, be quiet, will you?" Elena's quiet voice could be heard. I'm coming. And then something clicked again, and it became quiet. Ninel stood by the door, as if stunned. Why were they hiding the child? Whose child was it? What was all this for? Ninel quietly went back to her room. The morning is wiser than the evening. She had to get some sleep, at least a little, and then go look for the child tomorrow. But she tossed and turned all night and couldn't fall asleep. Ninel realized that Oscar's crying was a cover-up. Almost every time the secret child cried, Elena would press the button on Oscar's remote, which meant she couldn't leave the robot. Ninel loved her job and never interfered with the owner's affairs, but now she had to find out who was hiding a child in this wealthy house. And in the evening, when everyone was asleep, Ninel took Oscar's remote and hid it. Everyone was asleep. She crept up to the owner's office and, surprisingly, it was unlocked. She entered and, shining a flashlight from her phone, looked around the room. Everything was normal, quiet and calm. Ninel stood there and waited for something. And then she heard sounds coming from the wall, as if someone was knocking on it, and then quiet crying of a child. Putting her ear to the wall, she realized that the sound was coming from behind the stone wall, but there were no handles there. She walked along it, examining every inch, and saw that one of the stones was smoother than the others. She pressed it, and a part of the wall that looked like a door opened. Ninel shone her flashlight inside and almost screamed. There was a little girl right in front of her, skinny in a pink pajama. She was holding a rabbit in her hands. Her slanted eyes looked straight at Ninel, and her legs, short for her body, ran towards the nanny. And then the little girl cried, "Nika Bobo, Bobo Nika." The woman rushed towards her and started examining the little girl, and the little one looked up at her and asked, "Where is Mom Elena?" "Nika am. I will help you. Where is your boo-boo?" "Here," said the girl, pointing to her tummy. "I will give you a little massage now. Just show me how to turn on the light here." The girl went into the darkness, and a couple of seconds later Ninel saw where she had landed, a large room drowned in toys, dolls, rabbits, building blocks. Ninel laid the girl down and started stroking her tummy. She whispered a lullaby, and the little girl, rubbing her eyes, fell asleep. And the nanny, turning off the light in the secret room and sneaking out of the office on tiptoes, went to her room. She went in, not turning on the light, opened the door, but too late noticed someone lurking behind her. A strong blow to the head and she lost consciousness. Ninel woke up with a blindfold on her eyes, her head hurting. Her bound hands were numb and unresponsive, and she was also shaking. "I'm in the car," the woman guessed and asked, "Who is here? Where are you taking me?" A bag was pulled off her eyes, and Ninel saw Elena. "Well, did you satisfy your curiosity?" The older woman asked mockingly. "Now you're not afraid to die, are you?" "Where are you taking me?" Ninel asked in fear. Where? You know that curiosity is a sin. And sins must be paid for. Are you crazy? Let me go, or else I will go to the police." The older woman laughed. "Yes, of course, go ahead. Tell them that the mayor's son is hiding a child in the basement." "Who is this girl?" Elena's eyes turned into slits. "The more you know, the harder it will be to die." And then her phone rang. "Yes, Mr. Charlie?" "No, we haven't arrived yet." "How do we turn?" "Turn her back?" The more the elder listened, the angrier she got. Her face showed rage, but unable to pour it out on the owner, she poured it out on Ninel when she hung up. "You lucky brat. I carried you for nothing, tore my back. Be happy, that idiot Emma is asking for you from Oscar. Oscar can't sleep until you sing him your stupid songs." She cursed dirty, telling everything she thought about the owner's wife, and fell silent. And when they drove into the garage, she roughly pushed her out of the car and, reluctantly untying her hands, led her to the owner's office. He stared at the nanny with a fiery gaze. "I'd strangle you with my bare hands. Why did you go there? Are you prying into everything? Do you want to insult me in front of people?" "I wasn't prying, I just felt sorry for the baby. She's your daughter after all. What did I do wrong?" But the man, hearing the answer, went wild. He jumped up, approached and swung. "Say one more word and I'll kill you. And don't you dare say anything to Emma about her. As long as you're silent, you'll live. But if you bother Emma, I only spared you for her sake." They took Ninel to a room, gave her 5 minutes to change clothes, and told her to go to Oscar. Worried Emma was holding Oscar in her arms and, seeing Ninel, shone. "Ninel, finally, you're back. You should have told me right away that your mom was sick. I would have let you go and helped with a good hospital. Look, Oscar has a fever and I'm already tired." Ninel took the robot in her arms, and it was indeed hot. How could it be? Can it even get sick? Ninel, you hold him, and I'll run for medicine. Ninel was dealing with Oscar, while falling into despair herself. What should she do? She understood that Charlie and his assistant wouldn't let her go. Why were they keeping their daughter locked up? Because of Down syndrome? But that's ridiculous. No, there was something else. They had been treating Oscar all week. Either the robot was truly so intelligent, or it was just warming up and they fixed it, but his temperature went down. Emma felt relieved, and she calmed down, smiling sweetly at everyone. And she doesn't know anything, Ninel thought. She thinks her baby died, but he's just hidden. But why doesn't she hear the crying? Maybe she does know after all? Ninel was living like in a prison. One of the guards was following her movements. And even the phone was given to her for only an hour a day to read messages and reply to her family that everything was all right. Ninel thought about how to escape and tried to steal the key from the senior guard. But Mr. Charlie found out and explained clearly what they would do to her if she tried to escape. They would find their daughter and get their son as well. He locked his office every day, and Ninel, trying to get to little Nika, gave up that hope. It was unbearable for her to listen to the child's quiet crying, and a solution was needed. And she came up with it. The solution was terrible, but it was the only way to save herself and the poor little girl. Mr. Charlie needed to be killed. For example, poisoned. Of course, she could tell everything to Emma, but what would she do? Her husband would still retaliate against Ninel, and worst of all, her children too. She knew that the homeowner drank sleeping pills at night. What if she added them to his evening tea? A large dose would do the job, but how could she accomplish it? While she was contemplating her plan, an event occurred in the house that turned everything upside down. Oscar broke down. He fell silent in Emma's arms, sparking and flashing under the pink skin. Mr. Charlie called someone and cursed in German, and then sullenly slumped into his chair and cursed helplessly. They'll deliver a new one in 2 weeks, he explained to Emma. But, Charlie, what about the treatment? I don't know. We pay so much money, and they can't make it faster. Emma sat down in the chair, lost in thought, and then suggested, I'll take care of Nika for now. Just tell her that I'm her real mother. It will have a better therapeutic effect. And when they replace Oscar, we'll bring her back. Ninel, standing in the hallway and catching every word, choked with indignation. And, as luck would have it, the homeowners heard her coughing. Ninel ran to her room, but didn't make it. Charlie caught up to her and grabbed her hand. He was about to strike her when Emma emerged from the room. What are you doing, Charlie? Are you going to hit her in the house? Go to the basement instead. The carpets will absorb everything. But not too much, please. Oscar loves her. Emma smiled as she always did, sweetly, warmly, and carefree, as if asking for a toy. Charlie nodded and dragged the nanny down the stairs. Strangely enough, he didn't scold her or try to hit her again. He led her to a small room and was about to leave. Then suddenly, he covered his face with his hands and began to sob. Ninel looked at him and began to understand. Mr. Charlie, your wife is insane. She doesn't know what she's doing. Let me go, please. How can I let you go now? I asked you not to talk to Emma about what you know. And you're snooping and eavesdropping. It's your own fault. I just feel sorry for the child. She's not a toy. She lives in loneliness. She doesn't see anything except for one room. You show her this house, it's already a huge world for her, and then you hide her away in her room again. I don't know either. His voice faltered, and his hands began to tremble. I feel sorry for her too, but what can I do? Emma hates her. Why? The nanny was surprised. Because she was born so ugly. Everyone around has beautiful children, but she's like that. She's supposed to be perfect, that's what everyone thinks. Ninel was so shocked that she didn't know what to say. They sat in silence until Mr. Charlie regained his composure and said, "Okay, stay here, and I'll go." "Wait, what about me?" Ninel shouted after him, but all she heard was the sound of the door locking. Ninel didn't know how much time had passed before the door opened again. Charlie came down to her, visibly agitated, and sat opposite her. "Do you want to live?" he asked. "Look, a car will be here in an hour. I'll take you and Nika, and you'll leave. I'll say you ran away and start a search, but you'll already be at my aunt's place. I'll tell her that Nika is from another woman, she won't give you away. I'll give you a lot of money, but..." His eyes saddened. "You'll raise her like your own, okay? Be like a mother to her. I'll come to see you somehow." Ninel could tell that it was difficult for him to say this. You could only sympathize with this rich, influential man who loved his crazy wife and was becoming like her. Ninel felt that if she didn't agree now, it would only get worse. So, an hour later, she took the sleepy little girl by the hand and led her to the car. Charlie's words about being able to formalize custody documents and that Emma would soon forget the girl, understanding that she had gotten rid of a big problem, kept spinning in her head. The little girl looked in surprise at the car and the city flashing by outside the window. "Auntie, am I on TV?" she asked. "No, little one. This is the real world, and it's with you forever now." Nika turned out to be a clever, sensitive girl. She clung to Ninel with all her child soul, having experienced loneliness so early. At first, she was afraid if she didn't see Ninel nearby, but then, realizing that no one would abandon her anymore, she calmed down. Ninel became her mother, and no matter how much her son and daughter asked her, she didn't tell them where the girl came from. Everyone thought she was from an orphanage. Once a month, they received an envelope with money. One day, they received a notarized document, a gift deed for the house, and a year later, Charlie came to see them. When Ninel opened the door, Nika was drinking tea and eating candy. Upon hearing a new voice, she got up and went to the hallway, curious to see who had come to visit them. But upon seeing Charlie, she stepped back and hid behind Ninel. "Look, Nika, I bought you a doll." The man handed her a gift, but the little girl, always so friendly and cheerful with strangers, ran into the room, covering her face with her hands. Charlie lowered his head gloomily. "All right, I understand. I hope she'll forgive me when she grows up." He left the building and walked towards a taxi, hiding his face from passers-by. He didn't want people to see him crying.